You are listening to Come As You Are, the podcast. My name is Tyler, and I am joined by my two friends, Amanda and Stephanie. We are a trio of coaches coming together to explore life's biggest topics. Each episode, we hold true to our name, Come As You Are, by showing up and going live. Whatever we bring to the table that week is what we talk about. No scripts, no planning, just real and raw conversations. And audience participation is always encouraged. Our mission is to create a space where vulnerability and authenticity take center stage, and we believe in the power of deep conversations and soulful connections. So welcome to the show. We're happy that you're here, and we invite you now to just sit back, relax, and enjoy today's conversation. Hi.
Hi.
I have to say, okay, this is now, we're officially week 2 of us going live. Yay, how exciting. Mm-hmm. And I was more nervous today operating like the tech and like hitting the buttons. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if I like screw something up, or like what if it doesn't cue properly? Like it was so funny. I just had like the biggest wave of anxiety come over me. I was like, no, like don't hit the wrong button, Tyler. It was so funny because I was so calm before. Like we got in and I was setting things up and I was like, yeah, I'm ready to go. And then I hit the button and I was like, what if I screw something up?
You know, I can answer the question for you. What if? Then it's on the internet
forever. I know. It's eternal. It never goes away.
You will have a nickname, you know, a really not so flattering nickname. It's going to be for the rest of your life. You could never change it again.
Do you guys ever think about that? Okay, this is a really, I think, fun topic to kind of, you know, start off with. Like, we've been coaches now for a while and we've done lots of lives and we've put a lot of content like on our own and together. We've put a lot of content out there in the world. Do you ever think about like, well, I guess a bigger question is like, do you guys ever have like a really embarrassing like piece of content that you're like, oh my gosh, I wish that didn't exist, or like I wish like I never put that out?
I don't know if I would necessarily say, I don't know. I feel like you're asking the question. This is a very leading question, Tyler. What is it? Spill the beans. You got something.
I would know. I mean, I do, but it wasn't until like I was just thinking about this, like back in high school. So my friends and I, we were theater kids. Okay. That's all you need to know. We were theater kids. We used to film these like commercials and we would like act, and like there's a restaurant here in the United States called it's Sonic Drive-In, and I don't know if they're in Canada, but anyway, and I know they're not in Germany, so I didn't even go there. But anyway, there's a Sonic Drive-In and it's fast food, and they're like the drink mecca of like fast food. Like you could get all of these customized drinks and snacks and things like that. And so it was like a really popular place for like high school kids, because we would go get our like teas and our milkshakes and things like that. And one night it was me and a couple of my friends, we were like filming Sonic commercials, because they used to do this really great commercial where it was like two guys sitting in their car talking about like the Sonic products. And so we were like, let's recreate this. And I remember, again, it was all improvised. We didn't script anything out, you know, and we were just having fun. And I remember we were like recording one of the videos and I completely stuttered. Like I couldn't get the words out. And then this made me laugh. And I laughed. I have a video out there where I laugh for an entire minute, but it's not just like a giggle. It's like I make these sounds that sound like I'm possessed. I was laughing so hard. It was like I couldn't breathe. I was like, and like Oh, that was hard to do. It was like all of these things, and like I swear to God that video haunts me because it'll pop up as like a memory on Facebook now, and it was like 13 years ago this happened, and I'm like, oh boy, you know. But it's there forever, and like it's not like a bad video. Like there's nothing inappropriate or anything like that, but it's just like I will forever be like known as like the kid with the crazy laugh, and like that I got kind of branded that like right after, like my friends were like, "Oh my God, Tyler, like this is crazy." And it was a moment that I will forever cherish. And now looking back, I'm like not embarrassed that it's out there, but it's like that's forever going to be a part of my history.
That's cute though. I think it's cute. And I mean, there's so much worse content on the internet with someone, hysterically laughing for a minute.
This is very true.
Also, where can I see that?
I'll have to dig it out. I've tried to bury it, so I'll have to dig it out and I'll send it to y'all.
It can't be that bad if you are willing to share with us, It can't be that bad.
It's not bad. It's not bad at all. I will maybe I'll cut it in like when we actually turn this into like a podcast format. I'll cut in a little clip so you guys can hear the crazy laugh.
That would be so cool.
That would be fun. Because it's like everybody like knew me right after that. They were like the kid with the crazy laugh. Like that's what I got branded as. And I was like, well, I guess that's better than like some other childhood things.
Yeah, it's just those, I think, and it's for ourselves, right? Like we have that like cringe feeling, but other people, I think even like Stephanie even said, like that's not that bad, it's just, but because it's ourselves. And I think that is the true, right? Like a lot of the times what other people might perceive as like, oh wow, like that was really great content, or oh my goodness, what a hilarious laugh, it's so contagious, we perceive, because we're our own worst critics, as like, oh my goodness, that's so embarrassing, or oh my gosh, how did sometimes I do that when I wouldn't say necessarily embarrassed, but when I listen to videos back of myself. Like, did any of you have this experience where you're listening to a video of yourself and it's kind of like, oh, so that's how I sound? Because I hear my voice different than how a recording of my voice would sound, or how someone else would hear my voice. So I have those moments where I'm like, oh, so that's what I sound like. Because to me, I don't sound like that.
I have to so often. Yeah.
I used to be embarrassed. Like the very first time I ever heard myself on a recording, I was like, why would anybody want to be my friend if I sound like that? Like it was such an out of body experience. And I just remember going, that can't be true, because it's so interesting how you sound in your head versus how you sound like on the recording. And that was something that for me, it took me many like lives, and like luckily I was a film student, so I was always doing some sort of like voiceover or any sort of like content creation kind of stuff. And so quickly I got past that, but I'll never forget the first time I heard myself on a recording. I was like, this is awful. And it brings up that whole like I think bigger question of like also how self-critical we are of ourselves, because it's like clearly I have friends, and clearly my voice is to them obviously sounds somewhat bearable, because they're still around, they still hang around, but like we're just so self-critical, because it was like that was the most disgusting thing. I was like, I can't stand the sound of my voice. That was a big moment for me.
Yeah, I think for me, if I'm thinking of like, okay, what would be, so I did in high school, I did a film course, and it's not on the internet, but I can totally see, like, I'm remembering that like we had to film like a short film and like edit it, and that to me is very like, if I were to watch it now or even just replaying it back in my mind, like cringe, like that was not cool. But at the time I thought this is amazing. Like, wow, look how great this is. And we did it in a group. So there was a few of us and we had like the director and it was really cool to actually create something like that. So I think that's really interesting when we think back to things of the past, right? Like the things that we did, and maybe in that moment even it was, oh, this is the most amazing thing ever. And maybe this is like the teen coach in me again, that's like, as teenagers we do things that at the time this feels like, oh, this is a good decision, and then later we look back and think, why did I ever do that? Or why did I ever hang out with that group of people? Or why did I ever pretend to be something that I'm not, like, of course, look at us taking this one step deeper. All we're talking about is embarrassing videos, but we're diving in.
Here we go.
But it's true, right? Like, because I think that is the real conversation here. It's like, well, how do we judge ourselves? How do we look at the things that we've done in the past and judge them, and also how other people judge us? Because I think this is the name calling and those kind of things. Like for me, when I was, I want to say like first grade, second grade, third grade, maybe even like a little bit older, but in that age range, I remember like I was bullied a lot. I remember being very bullied. And this was the judgment of others. This was people judging me. And I shouldn't say always, at that point in time in my life, I hated my name. So because I was very much a tomboy, like, and to this day, I probably would say I still kind of am. I'm not the most girly girl of all girls, whatever that means in today's world. But I was very much like, I shopped in the boys section, like, oh gosh, this is a whole other conversation, guys. I don't know. I'm taking this in a million different directions, but there's so many conversations. I'm already like, in my mind, freaking out of like, oh gosh, there's so many different things that we could talk about here. But what I'm trying to share, as you talk about these like more embarrassing or like things where you feel judged, I remember that they used to call me a man. So a man, duh, right? A man. And so as a kid, that's the label that I got. I was a man. Mm-hmm. And I remember it wasn't even just the fact that it was a man. It was the fact that I was being teased. I was being bullied. I was being made fun of for expressing myself in like, these are the clothes that I like to wear. This is how I like to dress. Like that's what I like to wear. And so I just think this is super relatable. I think many of us can, though maybe a different, type of scenario, but we can all relate to being judged not only by ourselves in, oh my goodness, I sound terrible, or this, I'm being judged by others in, oh, look what she's wearing. And yeah, I don't know. I'm going to leave it there for you guys to pick that up because my mind is racing. So somebody stop me.
So is mine. I also like this. It's just bananas up here now. I'm like, oh my gosh, where do I take this? There's so many directions that we can take. So I'm just gonna also start to ramble and see where it takes us. I also had phases. I mean, my whole school experience was not great, like really not great for various reasons, and bullying was part of that too. I was always this like gray mouse type. I wouldn't say much. And not because I didn't want to say things, but I was so terrified of what people would think of me once I would actually just express myself. So I wouldn't even go I think it's really brave, as a kid, you go the step. You say, like, you were wearing the clothes that you would feel comfortable in and would express yourself. And I was the freezer type. I would just not do anything and try to, just hide, and not be labeled anything really. And which, also not a great experience, right? And I don't know, it cost me a lot of trouble also. And yeah, I don't know what it is about school. It's just so many people not having a great experience, right? What I was thinking when you were sharing this, that because we are always our own worst critic, that it doesn't just like, it's not something that just grows in us, right? We're not born with this idea that we should bully ourselves or that we should be mean to ourselves. I think it's just us echoing what other people told us at some point, or what they made us believe, that our clothes are weird, or we are having a weird personality, we're not social enough, or whatever. And because we heard this so often, or it just hurt us so much in that moment, that we had to believe it, like we had to take that on as truth to protect ourselves. I know it sounds very ironic, but in that moment we think that's just our safety mechanism to say, yes, okay, if that person sees me as weird, then I must do everything in my power to not be weird, because I do want to, sit with my friends or be the cool girl, or I want to just have friends or whatever. And then we start to believe that this is actually true. And this is how kind of this own inner worst critic, I think, gets born, when we just abandon at some point. You may have had this moment, Amanda, where you just, like, you gave up, like you stopped this fight. Like, this what it was for me. I it wasn't something conscious, but at some point, I guess I stopped listening to my own inner voice of what felt right. It was still there, it would still talk to me, but I just didn't act upon it. I just said, okay, I know that this is what I would like to say, this is how I would like to, this is who I would like to be and what I would like to express, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to do whatever they ask me to do, or whatever I think is safest in this environment, this kind of like self-abandonment. And now in hindsight, that's super heartbreaking, right? That we see that, oh, we really left our true self there for a second, or we just didn't listen to it. And then we grow up and we take all of this with us, and the baggage just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And here we are as adults thinking, maybe I should drop some of this baggage. Wouldn't that be a cool idea? I think that's the cycle of life, honestly.
I love what you're saying there, Stephanie, around, like, you go through school and growing up, and you kind of like lose parts of you, like you lose like your true self. And I've always said, I feel like that is literally what adulthood is about, is like rediscovering who you were. And I think back all the way to when I was like, I don't know, 4 or 5, and I have like distinct memories of being really imaginative and like playing pretend, and like, I mean, even way back then, like when somebody used to ask me, like, what is it that I want to do in my life, it was always like, oh, I want to be an actor, or I want to be like famous. But it wasn't even like, back then it was like, oh, okay, that's cute, like you're 5. But I think even looking way back then, it wasn't that I necessarily wanted to be famous. I wanted to have influence, you know? And it wasn't until I got older and I really started to reflect on who I was as like a little kid. And this is why it's, I think, so important for us to take the time to like go all the way back and ask ourselves, like, what were we doing when we were like 4 and 5 and 6, you know? What were the dreams that we had back then? Because to me, that was like that's like your intuition. That is like your awareness way back when to like guide you, you know? And I realized I was like I want to be an influence, you know? Wasn't like, you know, I saw celebrities, I saw actors as being like, oh, people who got to walk red carpets and had cameras on them. But like I think without even knowing it at 6, what I valued in that was the platform. Was the platform that they had to be able to speak about the things that mattered for them. And like I remember going all through high school and I got into theater, you know, as a way to like express myself and like, you know, I wanted to be the actor, but then I somehow ended up being the stage manager. I got placed backstage out of the spotlight, you know? And I think there was a part of me that I think lost a little bit of myself back then, and I was always comparing myself, and for whatever reason, I don't know. I don't know why, but for whatever reason my theater department had the most men ever, you know? Not a lot of men, you know, like flock to the theater, you know? And so it's usually pretty easy for guys to get parts and to be on stage if they want to be on stage. It was not that case for me. I had an incredibly talented like group of guys, and so I was always felt like I was in competition with them, comparing myself to them, always believing, well, okay, I'm not as talented as them, so maybe I don't belong on the stage. And I look back at this transformative period of my life and go, wow, I literally like hid myself behind the curtain backstage as the stage manager because for whatever reason back then I didn't believe that I could share the spotlight, that I could have a part of that. And that was so foundational. Like all the way through my 20s, I had to unpack that and realize, like, Tyler, you want to be a personality. You want to be somebody who has influence, who shares their voice, who, you know, creates a message and stands center stage. I think now this is why I'm so drawn to public speaking, because I don't have to act. And I know I wasn't a great actor, but I do like being in the spotlight. I do like having a platform to speak from. And I mean, this what's so cool about what we've done here is we've created that, and there's so many ways now to create your own stage, your own platform. But like for me, I took that away from myself because I was told by others, and then I personally started to believe that like, okay, maybe I'm not talented, maybe I'm not as good as the other people, you know. And just like, you know, anything when you're a child, like you just start to believe that and then you embody that and then you lose who you truly are, and it's so heartbreaking because there's like I don't know, I like kids are so cool to watch because they just know, they know with certainty like who they're meant to be or who they desire to be. And you know, and I think when we look at that and we look back and we go, okay, what was it about me wanting to be an actor or famous that actually like inspired me? And it wasn't fame, it was influence. It was the ability to have a stage. And I don't know, you just like, I think it's cool that at 6 we know that, whether or not we're totally aware of it or whether or not we know the deeper meaning behind it. I believe that like little kids know what they want to do, and then they're just told, oh no, don't believe in that or don't dream about that because that's never going to happen.
Oh, that's a sad truth, isn't it?
Mm.
And I believe maybe this is an assumption. Well, it is an assumption, but maybe it's a generalized assumption that we can all relate to this. And maybe there are, you know, the exception to the rule where you had and I would love to think that I'm that exception as a mom, that I would inspire not only just like my teen clients, but my son as well, to pursue the things that light him up. Not, oh, that's not possible, or oh, come on, like you can't make a living out of that. Like, you know, those things that we hear that stop us from really pursuing those things as the 6-year-old that gets us excited, or that, like you're sharing, Tyler, that we know our essence, we know who we are, and we know what we love, and then we're met with these things of other people, or of course we're always going to say society and the rules of what society has for us, and then we start to believe that, oh, maybe that isn't possible for me, or maybe that's not available to me, or maybe this isn't realistic, or maybe, you know, this is just some kind of pipe dream. And I hope that anyone who's listening is inspired by our conversation today to do what lights you up.
Mm.
I think that's one of the greatest gifts that we can give to not only just ourselves, but the people in our lives. As much as it might feel like that's too scary, or, oh, they won't accept me if I do that, it's possible. But that's their choice. That's the other person's choice. That's not up to you to decide how they respond to how you want to carry yourself in your life. And oftentimes, I think what happens is those people who are keeping us as we are, or how the version of us that they know us as, it's also because maybe they're afraid to step into doing whatever it is that they want to do. And when they see somebody else who's doing it, we can actually give them permission, if you will, for lack of a better way of describing this, right? Give them permission to step into their authenticity too, and to do the things that maybe they've always wanted to do and thought, well, that's not possible, or how could I make a living out of that? And my firm belief is that if we are passionate, if we are having fun, then you can make a living out of anything. And I mean, these days, like we just said, like there's a stage for everything. Like I am always blown away. I don't watch much TV. I'm not a TV, like I'd rather be reading a book or something. But whenever I turn on the TV and usually I'm watching somebody else flick the channels, because I would have no idea where to begin. But just seeing like, oh my goodness, there's a show for that. Oh my gosh, there's a show for that. And it just blows my mind. Even just thinking like YouTube, just what YouTube is, right? Here we are sharing ourselves with the internet of like, these are our thoughts. This is who we are. And there's a stage for that. And I think that's more welcome and accepted more than ever, you know? And I don't know. I think more people need to be inspired to follow their dreams, follow your passion, and live your authentic life.
Can I just dabble in just a little bit more to this, because I love where this has landed, because I've been thinking a lot about this recently, you know, just in everything that I do. What, you know, you use the TV as like, oh my God, there's a show for that, there's a this for that. I mean, same goes for like social media and, you know, these influencers and the people that like, I don't know how they have like 1 million followers and all they do is they post thirst traps, you know, or like silly things like that. But like, there is a stage for whatever you want to do and consume and create. And like there's this, like, I think we live in this space now where you can either be a consumer or you can be a creator, you know?
Mm.
And like create just to create, you know? This is we were actually talking about this before we went live, and this podcast live stream thing, whatever we're doing here, again, we're back to like, what the hell are we doing here? We're creating, I think, just to create, you know, because there's so much soul and so much love and like passion that goes into creating. And I think we're starting to see a big shift in our workforce where people are not just going to jobs, they're looking for joy. You know, they're not just looking for a job, they're looking for joy. And we're in this world now where we have all of the tools available to let us be creators. And like this, I kept like tapping my chest because I like this is, I think, at the essence of like what I really love to talk about is how can we create our own destiny? How can we create our own happiness? How can we, you know, be conscious of, you know, what brings us joy, what fills up our cup, and do more of that? Because, you know, it used to be like you had to get a job so that you could get paid, so that you can earn a living, so that you can live. There are people out there now who are making money splattering paint on a canvas, you know, or there are people out there now making money, you know, posting the thirst traps, you know, and they're getting paid by so many different companies to promote products and things like that. Like the question of how we make money anymore, and for so many years, like it was all about like, well, you got to make money, you got to have a living. Well, you can now make money and meaning at the same time, you know? And I think in the past it used to be split. Like you used to have a job, and then if you were lucky, you had enough time to do a hobby. Well, you can now have a hobby that is your full-time job that allows you to create and make money doing the things that you love. And I really believe now there is no excuse as to why somebody wouldn't be happy anymore, you know?
Ooh.
That brought me so much joy to just say that and like actually throw it out there, you know? To actually sit there and think about like there's no excuse anymore for why we can't be happy, because we can literally create and do anything now. We are limitless. And to me, that's like such freedom and such excitement. And I don't know, it like brings me a lot of hope, I think.
And what I'm hearing from the both of you really that it all comes down to joy. That as kids, this creative mode is our default. We don't have to think about it. We were born, joy is our default mode as humans for everyone. There's no exceptions. This is how we work. And as kids, because this is when our society still allows us to be that, right? We go to kindergarten, most of that is playtime. We have lots of toys at home. We learn things by playing games, puzzling, whatever, to become part of society. But then at some point, it gets less and less play and more this like rigid life schedule, for lack of a better term, right now, and we lose that. And I think when we just remind ourselves, coming back to what you said, Tyler, now there's no excuse. I even felt a little like, ooh, ouch. Like, oh,
Call us
Tyler,
out.
not shy today. It was
I did too. Like I said it and I went, ouch, that stings, because we always find some sort of excuse, but
yeah. And I think because it can sound so like, ooh, that feels heavy, right? When I hear someone say something like this, that the idea to get to this place where you have the beautiful creative job that makes you happy, where you don't even feel like it is a job, where it's just like second nature for you to do the things that will pay your rent or whatever. That the way to get there is not to think, oh, I need to have a to-do list, I need to have my life figured out, I need to excuse me, I need to have it all together, whatever that means. But if there's one thing you can do, then ask yourself, how can you step into joy? How can you step into pleasure? How can you step into a place where you can create, where you are this creative 5-year-old of yourself and you're just curious? I think that's the mindset behind it. You're just being curious versus judging yourself or judging the world or judging other people. And I think that can bring us, like, that gives me a bit of, like, peace right now, of like, oh yeah, if I can find something that just brings me joy, when I can do something where I can just let my creative mind be what it wants to be, which again is our default mode, I think that will bring us closer to our truth. And I know that we've talked about this before, that because of all the voices that we hear over time and the opinions we take on, it can seem like our own true self is so far away from ourselves. But I don't think that's true. I think our true self, what's really true for us, our purpose, our higher self, it's always speaking to us. And for us, we can make a decision at any point in time, whether we are 8 or 18 or 38 or 68, we can make the decision if we want to listen to it or not. I think it's always there, like that core of who we are. I call it our inner spark, is always there, and it's always sending us messages. And I think for us, a way to be able to hear it better is to step into pleasure, to step into joy, to step into this creative mode, to actually receive the messages and then be and act upon that. I don't think it's so far away. I don't think we need to do anything but be ourselves to step into that. There's no step-by-step process that we could give you right now to tell you, okay, this is how you're going to figure it out, this is how you're going to live your most purposeful life. That's the only thing I would actually say will make the difference, will move the needle for anyone, to go back to this time where everything was a lot more play and a little and so much less rules and rigid.
I'm the question that came up for me is like, when did it get so hard? When did it get so rigid? When did it get so structured? And I'm not even talking this. I'm thinking even bigger picture than like personally, because like, to answer it personally, it's, right around when you enter adulthood and you're, deciding if you're going to go to college or go into the workforce or, any of these like, big, quote unquote, big life decisions that you're making. But like, I think even bigger than that, like as a society, when did we, as an entire global unit, and again, we're 3 people from 3 different countries who have very similar experiences in terms of like life being controlled and, structured and chained to like society and like society expectations. And it's like, when did that happen? Like, has it always been around? And again, I'm not a anthropologist or any sort of like, I don't know the past histories or, as well as I would like, but like, what do you think has caused this, you know this this change from like being free to like being forced and being like, you know, controlled. And like do you think that as a society, again, big question, do you think as a society that we can find equilibrium where we actually come back to a place where, okay, yeah, we go to work because we need money to live, but we also have a side hustle or a hobby or a passion that allows us to balance it all out?
Ooh.
I know. I was like, okay, we're like 40 minutes into this. Do I drop that bomb? But like, I was like, it's too late. I gotta throw it out
I
there.
need to clear my schedule. Hold on.
It's such a valid question, though, right? And to me, I think, okay, for the sake of keeping this like a quick and short and sweet answer, I think that shift happens when we, and maybe this might require some more thought in the future, but my initial thoughts are it's when this survival kicks in. Because I'm thinking, okay, you're talking about like the beginning of all ages of humans. And I'm thinking, well, survival, right? The moment that we feel we need to survive in whatever environment that might be, we react and respond in certain ways. And I think in the world that we live in today, survival is I go to work, I make money to put a roof over my head and to have food on the table. I don't know. I don't know that there really truly is a short answer to this. Like Stephanie was saying, like, I think we would need a whole day. But if I'm trying to look at as humans, as a species, as a whole, what is that shift from, oh, well, I'm just, you know, a joyful little child to, okay, now I need to like get serious because I need to survive. And survival could look like in so many different ways, right? But I don't know. I don't know if that is. I don't know. That's my initial thoughts. And when you said like, how are we ever going to get to this equilibrium? For me, of course, I'm like, oh my goodness, so happy inside to imagine a world that is like this, because to me, this is part of the reason why I do what I do with teens, is to help them to understand that this is possible for them, that they don't have to be in this like rat race, you know? And my bias is that I'm not sure. Of course, yes, if there was more coaches in the world, but I also think that, and this is gonna, I'm like on the edge of like, do I open this can of worms or not? But I'm already here. So what I'm gonna say is, until we change the structure or the constructs of our education system, because I believe, and this is a personal belief, that is a big reason why so many of us fall into that trap. Because from a young age, we're going to school for a certain number of hours, majority of the day, let's be honest, right? Or, you know, waking hours, majority of our awake hours, we're at school. And I look at so many of my clients, they're like, I hate school. I don't want to go there. But we have to, quote unquote, have to go. So we just keep doing this, and we just keep showing up, and we keep pushing ourselves, and we keep doing things that maybe we don't entirely love doing for a very long time, from a very young age. And so to me, I feel like we're kind of, this is the imprinting stages of our brains. And so this is what we're teaching our brain. We're teaching it that we wake up, we hate what we do, but we do it anyways because we quote unquote have to. And I need to stop myself because we do need to start wrapping up soon. But but oh yeah, I could sit on that one for a while. But that's in trying to keep it as short and sweet as possible. We'll have to pick this up another time. But those are my thoughts real quick.
So I really want to thank you too from the bottom of my heart for dropping like 16 different juicy bombs for me here. And now I have to be the grown up and kind of like start closing it off. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You haven't noticed I'm a bit sarcastic right now. So I want to say to everyone who is listening, if you have an answer to Tyler's question, because I think also it's super brilliant and so juicy, put it in the comments or send us an email or find us anywhere and let us know what you think is maybe a part of the answer. Because I think also there's so many different components that we could cover when it comes to this. I had this thought coming back to making it actually personal, that you said, Amanda, it's, the survival mode that we have, right? Like in the beginning of the days, we had to just, get up, look for food, make sure we're not eaten by tigers, go to bed and repeat next day kind of thing. And now we don't have actual physical tigers, but we have the same amount of stress when we have to meet a deadline at work. So, our brains are very unique, and there's nothing on this planet that no other living creature has this kind of, brain and is wired in the same way that we are as humans. And, animals, they have it so much easier. when let's say a lion experiences stress, or a dog, they're shaking a bit, right? They literally shake it off. So they are able to have this physical reaction of like, ooh, that was stressful, I'm going to shake it off. And then they have forgotten all about it. And we as humans are so much more complex. So I think, trying also to keep it sweet and short, it started the first second humanity came into existence with the brain that we have today, which is like millions of years old already, but that's just how we are kind of wired. But coming back to what you said, Amanda, I think we can find much better ways. Like, we know this. We know that we can have so many different societal structures that would help us not be in the survival mode so much, and be more in this creative, alive, free mode. And there's so many solutions, and somehow we can't, collectively drag ourselves to change it as quickly as we as coaches like to change it, right? Like we're like, we have the solution, just, put us in charge and we will do it. But then we don't want to deal with the politics, right? We're like, we're not political people to get all the stuff going in the system. Yeah. So those are my final thoughts. So again, anyone who's listening or watching, if you have someone, maybe an anthropologist who is like, I have never heard people talk about this or answer this question. So I'd love to actually know. Maybe there are answers to these questions out there already. I'd love to hear.
I'm gonna end with my final reflection here. I think the argument that we've made today, or that we've like just slowly cracked open, again, we could spend hours and months and years talking about this topic, but it comes down to, society versus self, and recognizing that as individuals, we have the power, we have the control, we get to decide, what's right for us. And so, when you're sitting there asking yourself, oh my God, I have to go to work tomorrow, or I have to do this, stop and just like ask yourself, well, what is it that I actually want to do? And I think that is how we start to get into more alignment and find that equilibrium, is we stop like subscribing to this belief that we have to do something or we should be doing something, and we actually just ask ourselves, what is it that I want to do today? What is it that's going to make me happy? What is it that's going to bring me the joy? Those are the questions that we need to be asking ourselves. And that's how I'm going to close it out.
Oh, so many good thoughts today. So many nuggets as always. But yeah, we definitely need to like pin this. I know we don't like, I know we're so like, let's not plan anything, but I love this conversation so much. I'm like, we have to pick this up sometime, which I'm sure we will because naturally we just do that. But thank you all so much for joining us in this conversation. Thank you for your comments and support and for being on this journey with us. Until next time. Bye for now, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Come As You Are, the podcast. You can follow the show on Instagram at Kaya the Podcast and on YouTube and Facebook by searching Kaya the Podcast. If you haven't already done so, please help us keep the conversations going by subscribing, rating, reviewing, and sharing this podcast. And be sure to join us next time for another deep conversation.